Hey guys, today I'm in Ridgewood, Queens, and I'm at the site of Mefera Park, which is right in front of me there. And I'm here to tell you a story today of an old baseball stadium that used to be here, right where the park now stands. The stadium was called Farmers Oval, and it was home to the Glendale Farmers, a semi-professional baseball team from 1907 to 1945. Now, unfortunately, there's no images that I was able to find of the old baseball stadium, other than this one image of Sophie Tucker, the old vaudevillian, who performed here in like 1917. But as you can see from the image, it's awful. However, that doesn't stop me there. I was able to find a website where there was aerial photography. Of New York that was shot in 1924. And from there, I was able to find this image of Farmers Oval when it stood on these grounds right here. Now, I'm stood on the corner of 68th Avenue and 65th Place, and right here, you see where the fence goes around here? That actually would have been the grandstand. So from the image, you can't actually see the entrance to the ballpark, but because the road was here and the grandstand went down this way, the actual entrance to the ballpark would have been right here behind home plate. Perhaps maybe just edging down the right field line a little bit. Now, this section here, this wasn't a part of the ballpark. The actual grandstand was right in front of us. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk inside what was the ballpark. And I did so much studying to try and find the exact pinpoint locations here. Now, this was a semi-professional ballpark, and some of the teams that would have come here would have been like the, see, remember, back in those days, every neighborhood in New York had a baseball team. And some of those teams would have been the Elmhurst Grays, the Yankee Athletic Club, the Newark Ironsides, the Doherty Silk Sox, the Corona Casey's, as well as the Bushwicks and the Ridgewoods. Now, you're going to have to use your imaginations here to imagine an old baseball stadium. And the first place I'm going to head to, the grandstand would have been just to my right here. Unfortunately, there's only a few bleachers left. But the grandstand would have gone all the way around here. And then quite likely, maybe where the opening is here, the grandstand would have finished, and then there would have been bleachers that branched out into left field there. And on this side, again, the grandstand would have gone down like down here. Then there would have been a row of bleachers. And then this is what I find really unique with this stadium. If you're a baseball lover, you'll notice the right field line cuts in towards the outfield. So I wondered whether a person who used to play to the right field, was a right field hitter, they probably hated coming here. Now, let's get my bearings. I've found it, I think. Now, the lengths that I went to get these details, you probably wouldn't even believe. but home plate would have been right around here, like where the black surface is. Home plate is like literally in this area here, and the pitching mound would have been down that way. So you got to imagine now that I'm in the batter's box looking at the pitcher's mound. So left field would have been over here, and right field would have been over this way. Now what if I was to tell you that I'm actually stood on a spot where the great Hall of Famer, the New York Yankee, Lou Gehrig, once stood? Well, that would be true. You got to remember, back in the days of professional baseball, the players didn't earn as much as they do now. And in 1925, Lou Gehrig bought an all-star team here to play the Glendale Farmers. Now, he wasn't the only one. There were other Hall of Famers came here. Hall of Famer Grover Cleveland Alexander led his House of David 9 as the starting pitcher. So Grover Cleveland Alexander would have been based right there in front of us. And the Brooklyn Dodger, Babe Herman, even though he wasn't an all-star, he brought his team of Major League All-Stars to the ballpark. Now, these are just some of them. One of the players who played on Babe Herman's team was Leo Durocher. So Leo Durocher was also playing here at this ballpark at one point. Now, like I said, they were a semi-professional team, so they would play against all kinds of different teams just to make a little extra money. One team that came here in 1911, and the image is actually from 1911, so all of the players that you see in this image would have also been playing on this field back in 1911, and they were the Western Blue Miguels. The team featured the creator of the Blue Miguels, Maud Nelson, and as you can see from the image, there's actually two guys on the team. When there were Blue Miguel teams, it was quite normal. The Blue Miguels go back to like the 1890s. They're all various Blue Miguel teams. And what they would do, they would have 2 or 3 men on the team. Now, I do know, I saw the box score on this one. And the Glendale Farmers beat the Western Blue Miguels 8-4. Now, I haven't included the box score here. As you can see, what I'm doing now is I'm now going to go to the outfield, because there's an old railway bridge down there, which on its own looks really, really good. So I'm heading in now to what would have been left field. And like I said, the stadium stood here from 1907 to 1945. And they built a new one where the bridge is there. Beyond that is Christ the King High School. And they built a new Farmers Oval on the other side of the bridge in 1949. So I'm facing over to home plate there. Unfortunately, this fence is in the way, otherwise it would have been great to walk right up. But this would have been the outfield. Now also, in the early 1900s, anywhere from like 1911 up until, say, 1925, there used to be what was known as Negro League teams. Now, I know the terminology to this day probably isn't appropriate, but the Negro League teams are now officially recognized by Major League Baseball. This was before African American players were allowed to play Major League Baseball. They would organise their own teams to play local teams like the Glendale Farmers, and they would tour the country to earn a living. Quite possibly the most famous Negro League team to play here, and at the time they played here in 1925, they were actually in the Negro Leagues at the time, was the Baltimore Black Sox. Now if you look at the image is actually from 1925. So this Black Sox team that you see in the image, these were the actual guys that played here at the stadium. One of those players was Judd Boojum Wilson, who just a few years ago, I unfortunately don't remember the exact date, he was elected to the Hall of Fame as via the Negro League Committee. But there were other teams that played here. The Brooklyn Royal Giants, who around 1912 were known as the Colored World Champions. And again, I know the terminology is a little outdated, but if you look at the image, you can actually see one of the players wearing a Colored World Champions jersey. And the team they beat for that championship were the Lincoln Giants. Yes, the Lincoln Giants, another team of African American players who played here at Farmers Oval. Other teams appeared here are the Cuban Stars, of which there were many different Cuban Stars teams. The Brooklyn Black Eagles. Now unfortunately the wind's kicking up and I've got to turn the camera towards the wind, but right now this probably would have been, where I'm standing now, would have been the depths of the outfield, which as you can see from where the floodlight is directly in front of this is where home plate was. Other African American players, teams that played here, the New York Black Yankees out of Patterson, New Jersey. They played here 3 years prior to joining the Negro Leagues. Now I don't think we can see it, but this stadium was taken down in 1947. And one other thing I should mention, soccer was played here from like 1907 right up until the day that it closed here. So even though baseball stopped in 1945, or at least the Glendale Farmers stopped in 45, the stadium continued as a soccer stadium. So they took it down in 1947, and then 2 years later in 1949, on the other side of this bridge here, I don't think we can really see anything there because of the fence, but in 1949 they built a new Farmers Stadium. It wasn't called the Farmers Oval anymore, it's called Farmers Stadium. And one of the teams to have played there were the Arthur Murray guys, the Arthur Murray girls, who played the Golden Tornadoes, a team made up of deaf baseball players. Like I said, that wasn't on this particular field. That was on the field, well, we can't see it at all. But anyway, the field, the News Farmers Stadium, is where Christ the King High School now is, which is on the other side of the bridge right here. Now, when they took down the stadium here and built the new stadium, people would walk across this old field, which had now been made into a new field, of course. And they would cross over the railway tracks to get to the new stadium. And then later in the 1960s, kids who would go to Christ the King High School, who lived in this area over here, that's exactly what they would have done as well, although I'm sure they were told not to do it. But they would have cut through the field here, jumped over the railway tracks, probably up there, or even down, probably can't see it. They probably went up the railway tracks up there, or down here. Ah, it's locked. All right, there we go. So that was it. Let me just check my notes to make sure that I didn't miss anything. I think I've pretty much covered it all. Yep, I think that's it. So at one time or another, players such as Lou Gehrig, Babe Herman, Grover Cleveland Alexander, and Judd Boojum Wilson all played baseball on this field 100 years ago.